Hey, Winston here. I'm with my good friend Scott Saunders. And Scott, tell the people who you are.
Scott Saunders. I'm from Colorado. I'm an expert on 1031 exchanges, and I also do real estate investing, and I'm growing and scaling a portfolio.
So we are here on the Powered Investor Cruise with Jason Hartman on board the Apex. The Apex is an X-class ship which has these cool windows in the back. Got a blind that comes down, shuts it off. That window comes down and gives you a full balcony. So it's kind of cool. So we were talking earlier about a lot of different things with some 1031s and maybe doing a cost segregation. Before we get into that, I just want to tell the people. So, what does your portfolio look like right now?
Right now, it's single family rentals, almost all single family. I've got 77 assets in total, and I'm in about 11 different states. So, diversified, probably overly diversified, actually, if I were to be honest. And I'm just continuing to kind of grow and scale that portfolio. I love single family as an asset class. I know some people like to progress to other things. I think single families are just a great investment, great return, undersupplied, and they just provide a lot of opportunity for investors. And it's kind of easy if you really focus to build a portfolio. You pick up one asset, you pick up another, and you kind of build it together slowly over time, and if you do it enough, it becomes something fairly significant.
So all of the people, or a lot of the people that watch my videos, are fairly new. They're trying to get involved with it. The conferences that we put on are really at a level to help people that don't own any properties get in, or people that have maybe 5 properties and want to scale up to 10. It'll teach them how to do that pretty easy and stuff like that. So you have 77 assets.
Yep.
Across more than 20 states.
More than 10 states.
Or more than 10 states. Yeah. How did you find them? How did you buy them? Do you manage them yourself?
You know, I do a lot of mine are what are called turnkey investments. So I'll work with a company that will buy an undervalued asset. They will fix it up and update it. So they'll do a renovation on it, put in new mechanicals, freshen up the bathrooms, the kitchens, freshen up the landscaping. So now there's a nicer quality asset. I'll purchase it from them at retail. So they're making a little money on doing that. That's part of their business. But I'm getting an asset that's in really good shape. So it's easier to get a better quality tenant. Somebody wants to move into a little nicer house. Hopefully they'll stay there for a while and take good care of the property. So that's the type that I'm going with. And then most of those companies will offer property management locally. So I'm in Colorado, but I only have one property in Colorado that I manage. All the other assets are out of state. So I like working with out-of-state companies that really take care of that hassle for me.
So are those people providing the houses that you're buying from them, kind of like Jason Hartman's network does, where they're selling houses? Or?
Very, very similar to that, exactly. Okay.
So,
and they're just in different markets.
So I like that concept, but I'm a little bit confused on the return.
Okay.
So when you walk into the door to buy a property from a company like that, what is the numbers you're looking for? How do you decide what's a good deal, what's not a good deal? What's the goal?
Yeah, the goal for me, if I were to make it really simple, is that whole concept that you're familiar with of the 1% rule, right? So if you buy an asset for $100,000, you like it to rent for about $1,000. That's kind of a benchmark, and it doesn't apply to everything, but that's just kind of what I look for. I'll tell you, we're sitting here today, beginning of May 2024. It's harder in this market with financing to hit the 1% rule. It's just harder to do that when you're looking at assets. You and I talked about one I just purchased, a recent one. Paid $141,000 for it in Memphis, Tennessee, and the rent on it's $1,350. So it's a little less than the 1% rule, but here's the beauty of it. That $1,350 rent this year, next year that'll go up to 14 or 14 and a quarter. So I'll be at the 1% rule. I just got to wait a year to get there.
It takes you a year, 12 to 24 months to get there.
Yeah, that's what it is. So I'll be there. So what I'm doing is I'm buying an asset today.
Can you go a little bit more in detail for that? Because I'm sure several people that are watching did not understand what you just said.
Yeah.
So maybe break it down. How did you get to the 1% rule after that? And
yeah, so that particular asset, let's just say it was $140,000. The 1% rule for that asset would have been rent coming in at $1,400 a month. So if I had $1,400 a month, I'd be right at the 1% rule. And that's going to be a good investment. It's not a home run. It's not a bad investment. It's just a good, solid base investment. That particular one, I'm now getting $1,350, so I'm just under that in 2024. Most rents will keep up with inflation roughly in most markets. Mm-hmm. So you can assume if I'm getting at $1,350, I can renew with that tenant, get maybe a $50, maybe a $75 rent bump next year. So it'll release next year. They call it $1,400. Then I'm getting the 1% rule in 2025, even though I didn't get it today. But here's the one thing I did pick up with that. Right now, with interest rates higher in the market, a lot of investors are kind of sitting on the sidelines. They're not doing a lot. So I've got the pick of properties. I'm in a great position to be a buyer and to pick up that asset today, right? And so I'm willing to be patient, and I can wait a year, even if it takes 2 years. I can wait to get that ideal return, because here's the beauty of it. You know this, Winston. It's $50 the next year, but it'll go up another 50, 75 in the next year. Mm-hmm. And in real estate, we tend to see that happen year after year. And there might be a season where maybe rents are flat for a yearish, but real estate will just pick back up. And you can kind of count on the rate of inflation pushing rents up at about that rate consistently over a 10-year time window. So that's what I'm looking for, is the long-term investment, not what it's going to do, just in year one, but what it's going to do over the long term.
So are you putting big down payments down? Are you paying for it 100%? Or?
No, I'm getting bank financing. I get a loan. That particular one, I put down 25%. So okay. I'll put down 20 to maybe 30 or 40% on a property. So sometimes I'll do the bare minimum.
So if you're putting 25% down, what I'm coming across right now with the 1% rule, if you're doing a commercial on at 8%, you're barely cash flowing. And probably very fortunate to make just a few $100s a year with that. But if you're putting 25% down, that's gonna fix that problem and give you a little bit more cash flow, maybe a little more room to maneuver. And that was something that was discussed during the class today, that any property with cash flow, just put more money down with it, right? Which was funny to listen to him say that, but that's true.
Totally true. And sometimes people think, I got to put down the bare minimum. It's a lever that you can pull, right? So why not use that lever to your advantage? You still take advantage of leverage. If I put leverage, if I put down 25 or 30%, I'm still getting some of the bank's money that I'm leveraging. You don't always have to have maximum leverage to get the benefit of leverage. I think sometimes people think, I've always got to be as fully leveraged as I can. Well, maybe it makes sense in one deal, maybe it doesn't. And I agree with you, in today's environment, I like to boost the cash flow and get that pushed up.
But maximum leverage right now, I think there's too many variables in the market and in our country right now that could go south, and turn that barely making it house into you're losing your ass in it.
Yeah.
And you can't get ahead and you can't catch up, and too many people go in that are strapped with money, and they really can't take that hit.
Right.
They start taking big hits, and the next thing you know, they're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Because they just didn't do their due diligence properly.
Yeah, you do your due diligence, or you're not savvy enough to plan ahead and have sufficient reserves. So like a first-time investor, I would say, and I don't know what your feeling is, but I'd say minimum 3 to 6 months in reserves to help carry you through maybe a tenant turn that costs a little bit more, or it's vacant. So I think the key, especially for first-time investors, it's not fully leveraged. It's the opposite. It's have adequate reserves behind you, so when you buy that asset, you can hold on to it. Because as you probably know, in real estate, over time, you make a lot of money. You build wealth. Mm-hmm. The key is not getting bumped out of the game because you made some bad investments and you don't have adequate reserves. Getting bumped out wipes out more real estate investors than anything else. Time will fix any problem with real estate if you can just hang on to it.
I agree. And so many people just have one bad experience, and they never pick it up again, and they never do real estate again the rest of their life, even though they went into it with great intentions. They didn't put enough money down. They didn't do their numbers right. They missed some mark of it, and then they figure, well, you can't ever make money in real estate. It's just not possible. But they just didn't do something right. They didn't get, education isn't free. And you will pay for it through a class like what we're attending right now.
Right.
Or you're going to pay for it through experience. But you're going to pay for it. It's coming. There will be a fee.
Yeah.
And that's what so many people look at and they think, well, I'm just going to go do it. When you screw up in real estate and you're dealing with a couple $100,000 project or $150,000 project and you screw up, that's a big deal if you're only making $60,000 a year.
Right.
If you're making $250,000, you're okay. You can wing it. I mean, that's how I started out. I was making enough money I could wing it. And I failed and failed and failed, and I said, okay, I can still cash flow. I'm good. And I was just moving with it. But if I had it all to do over again, it would have been the education first.
Well, do you think that's what you do on your channel? You're educating people with how to buy properly and how to do rent. I mean, that's the value you add is you're bringing real life experience in, and you're showing people what it looks like in real life, right? You're walking properties. You're like, this is what it looks like to do a renovation, and you're walking through that. You're showing a piece of dirt, and you're showing maybe here's the potential. Here's how I optimize that. So how do you do that when you're looking at real estate? How do you decide for you what's your optimal investment, or is it going to change depending upon the asset?
So I'm very concerned about appreciation.
Okay.
I like a market that appreciates. Now, do I want a market that appreciates at 10% a year? Absolutely. Do I get it? No. What I do is I find a market that's and I want a linear market. So I want a market that's going to steadily move up. It ain't got to move up fast, but it's got to steadily move up all the time. And there's not a whole lot of craziness in it where one year it does great and the next year it loses twice what it just gained. I don't want that kind of market. But I also want, I can pull up Nashville in that area, and over the last 50 years, the average appreciation for 50 years is 5%. So if it's and this is my philosophy, you can tell me whether you disagree or not, but my attitude is if it is appreciated 5% a year for the last 50 years, I think I can pretty much count on 5%. And that's my attitude. So when I run my numbers and I'm trying to dissect that deal down and decide what I want to do it, I'm going to throw that 5% appreciation there. Now, I won't throw more. I'll only throw at 5%. Even though I think because of the mass printing of currency, and the dollar keeps devaluing the more we print, and the government keeps giving money to other countries, and it just keeps going down, the dollar does, so our appreciation is going up faster. If I Google and pull up the appreciation in Nashville for the last 10 years, it's about 9%.
Okay, so almost double the historical.
And I'm very comfortable personally to look at it and say, this is what I'm expecting. If the numbers make sense at the 5%, I'm okay. Right. But I'm expecting 9%. I'm not expecting 5%. And I know, when you talk with Ken and listen to Ken's podcast, Ken McElroy, he'll say, I never consider appreciation. I don't know how you can't consider appreciation. I mean, it is a real thing, and it is very consistent. I mean, it goes as the dollar devalues. I mean, it has to keep up with that number, right?
Right, absolutely has to. So I think every real estate investor, they consider appreciation. Yeah. And you have to put in the equation. You got 4 levers to pull. You got appreciation. You got cash flow, probably the most important in the beginning. Gets the cash flow. Mm-hmm. You got appreciation. You got tax advantages. You got leverage. You probably have that 5th one, I guess, of what I call debt debasement, right? You got inflation making your property go up in value, but it's actually reducing the cost of your debt. Oh yeah. Because that dollar, if you get a fixed rate mortgage, you're going to be writing a check 20 years from now, but it's not going to hurt as much as it does today. I need an algorithm
for that.
What's an algorithm? Like what do you mean?
So a lot of times I used to go in and I would say, okay, my break-even number whenever I buy a house is 0.006. Okay. If I can hit 0.006, whatever the cost of that house was, if it was in decent shape, I can cash flow that house. And I could cash flow that house about $500 a month positive. Okay. So that was my algorithm number. So I would find out what the cost of the house was going to be. I would look at it. I'd run it at 0.006. If the numbers worked out, okay, now I'm going to dissect that down and we're going to work with the numbers. If the numbers didn't work out, I would walk away from that deal and I would go somewhere else. But it was a very simple math thing I could do in just a few seconds. Right. Now, the 1% rule a lot of people use, that's what I need to do to make money. I think once you get the 1%, now you dissect it down and make sure, okay, what am I buying? Because a lot of people go with the 1% rule and then they got all these maintenance costs and, okay, now you made 0.05. You didn't. Right. You made 0.5%, not 1, because you didn't take into consideration everything. But on that right there, Jason was talking about inflation-induced debt destruction, and that's what I told him this morning. I said, I need an algorithm for that. What's the algorithm? And he said, I don't know. I said, I need a multiplier. How do I multiply and get that number?
Yeah, you know why it's hard to multiply? You know why I can't give you the number? Because inflation,
it's not consistent.
Inflation's not consistent, and we also have the other thing. When we look at the inflation number, everybody looks at the CPI, right? That's the government index. That index, was created in the early 1980s. They manipulated, I don't know exactly how
All
many, but
the
8
time.
or 9 different times.
Yep.
So they adjust that index. So what we call the official inflation number isn't really the rate of inflation. And we all know that. We all go to get groceries and gas, and we know what stuff you. I got a thing of deodorant.
We know it's not
$9.50. $9.50 for a little stick of deodorant. I used to buy it for $3, and that's in the last few years. So we all know that's bogus. That's not a real number. So I don't know how you take a number where it's bogus and then it changes, right? So if inflation by the government is 9%, I'm going to say the real inflation is double it. It's probably 18. So how do you put that in an algorithm?
I agree. I agree with that number. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna work on that.
If you get one, let me know or let Jason know, because we could all use. Actually, if you can come up with one, maybe you can figure one out that's a good number for the algorithm. That would be something we could all use.
And maybe we come in at 7-8% on what it looks like at 7-8% inflation, and say, okay, this is we can. And I don't think we're going to get less than that as long as the government's going to keep printing money. I mean, the more they print money, and we got to print more money next year than we print this year because our debt keeps going up.
Right.
And now we can't even service our debt, so we're printing money to service the debt.
Right.
And it's just a very rhetorical. I mean, it's going to keep on happening and happening.
It's going to happen and accelerate. So here, for the people that are watching your channel, I think one thing they can benefit from, we're all getting pummeled with inflation, right? Whether it's groceries or other costs, the service inflation. The beauty of real estate is that it gives everybody a chance to use inflation to our advantage. It's one of the few mechanisms where we can do that. We buy an asset, right? We buy that asset, and now if we do it, we can buy it all cash, we can buy it with some bank money, with financing. Now we got a tangible asset, and that asset's going to track with inflation. But if we use some financing with it, now we're using good business debt, which means inflation, instead of hurting us, coming at us as a headwind, it's a tailwind that's going to help us build wealth. And so, to me, that's a real big advantage of using inflation and using it as a tool. So rather than bitching and screaming about it, because it sucks, we all hate it, go ahead and turn that around and say, hey, how can I take advantage of what the Fed's going to be doing, and how can I turn that into a positive for me and my family and my investing? So I think that's important.
So when you're buying the houses from these companies, what kind of performer do they give you? What are they giving you as numbers?
You got to be really careful looking at a performer from the companies. They all vary, and a lot of them are a little bogus, in my opinion. They're going to throw in overly aggressive rates of appreciation. They're going to put a number there for their expense ratio that I think is a little bit too low. So I think every investor has to do their own due diligence. You can't just trust it. The company is selling product, and what they're going to do is they're going to sprinkle the performer with a little fairy dust to make it look good and glowing and come out with a really nice number at the bottom.
What kind of number do they typically come out with?
For example, a lot of them I'll see put a vacancy. They'll put 3 or 4% vacancy in there.
I don't do anything with less than 7. And 7% tells me it's going to go vacant one time every 14 months. And so that is a real consistent number I use. And I can hedge that because we got enough properties that we can probably go with a little bit lower number, but I still don't. I mean, it has to meet the 7% in order to buy the deal.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it doesn't. I know on Jason's performers, they're typically in between 30 and 33% of a throw-off. And what he's including on that is he does not include the depreciation number. So he doesn't give you a depreciation number, but he is including principal reduction.
Okay.
And he is including the appreciation. I think he uses like 4% on appreciation, which is
that's reasonable.
That's a conservative number. And then your cash flow.
Okay.
And so those are the three that he uses. But his numbers on his houses always seem to come in right in there at between 30-33%. And I don't notice. I haven't had an opportunity to ask him, but I don't know. Maybe he's basing the price on the house off of whether it yields that 30% return. The 30% return is what I'm wanting to offer my clients as a throw-off number. And that might be yielding you very minimal on cash flow.
Yeah, that could be.
It's because appreciation is a huge thing whenever you start looking at it. I mean, you're getting 5% appreciation. That's a big number if you're putting $20,000 down on it.
Yeah.
$25,000 down. That's a big number.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I know some turnkey providers do use that formula to back into the pricing for the asset. Mm-hmm. So some do that. Okay. I don't know what Jason does with his.
So is that something you would suggest? Because on my channel, I do push every aspect of that of how to buy, and I try to encourage people, and I said that today during the class. I said, just go build one house.
Right.
Just try it. Just try one house for the experience. If you won't lose any money, but if you make just a little bit, that's good. But you might make a lot.
Right.
But the experience is worth its weight in gold.
Right.
It really is. And so I'm always pushing people for that. And I do have people that have done it. And I haven't had anybody that's done it that hasn't been successful with it.
Well, that speaks for itself.
So it's kind of cool.
I think it depends on what you invest in. May depend upon what you do for a job, how much capacity do you have. So if you're working full time, you may not have the hours in the day. It might be tough to try and build a property. So something like a turnkey, even though it's not going to get you necessarily the best return, right? It's a good, solid return. When you're building a place, you get to control what goes into it, and now you're going to get the markup on that finished product. You'll get a better ROI by building it, paying for the dirt and controlling the cost. You're going to get it's going to appraise here. You can pull a lot of cash out of it. With a turnkey, you're going to get a good return. It's what I call a base hit. It's not going to be a home run, but add up 4 base hits and you just surround the bases.
It's better than a foul ball, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or an out.
Exactly. Well, we all have a few of those too.
We do.
So that's kind of my philosophy of investing. Stack up a base hit, buy an asset, stack up another one. A lot of base hits moves the needle. So it's one way to get there. I think doing the new construction, you probably get there. You probably learn a whole hell of a lot more.
You got to do one of those. We got to partner on one day.
I should give it a shot.
It ain't a ton of money. You're talking about a ton of money. We'll do something. I'm not talking about an apartment complex. Now I do have one if you want to partner on an apartment complex.
Well, we'll see. I'm the single family guy. I love single family.
So we're gonna talk. We will kill this video a couple of times and talk about stuff. But one of the segments we're going to talk about is the apartment complex I got to build, and how before you and I talked earlier, day before yesterday, I didn't see an avenue that I could build it myself, but now I do.
What changed?
Well, that's a different segment.
We can
talk about
all
that
right.
now.
Different
that's
segment.
The hook. So for a beginner investor, you have any specific advice you think just to be able to get a property and how they can progress forward and have a positive experience?
Yeah, a few things. I think first of all, you got to set a goal. You got to decide what it is you're going after. You want to be in real estate, you got to set a goal, and you got to put a time deadline on that, whatever that is. I like 90-day goals. That's how I measure mine. But let's say you're a beginning investor. You say, this year, I'm going to buy an investment property. Fair time. What does it take? Number one, it takes capital. You're going to come up with a down payment. So let's say you're going to need 25 to 30 grand to buy a starter single family home in a lot of, what I call linear markets, kind of a Midwest market, similar to Texas. I buy in Memphis. It's 25 to 30 grand. So I need capital. A, do I have that? B, can I get it easily? Do I have a 401k that I can borrow against to maybe pull out that cash? Can I generate that cash quickly? Do I have stuff around that I can sell? Can I ditch a ski boat? Can I get rid of some motorcycles? If I'm a gun guy, can I unload? I got 10 guns. Can I unload 9 of them? Keep one. So if you're really motivated, you want to get after it, you got to get the cash. So you can generate your own cash. The other way to do it is you partner with somebody. Do you have a family member that's got some money to invest? You say, hey, I'll bring the deal into you. You bring the cash, right? Because there are different components to a deal. And you add a lot of value by bringing a good deal. A lot of people can't find a good deal. People that are beginning investors, they at least know what to start looking for. They know how to start to run a pro forma and how to do that. So get the capital. And then the first thing to do, which is probably the most important, is to go buy your first deal. If there's anything where people screw up, it's that analysis paralysis thing. They're always looking for the perfect deal. They want a home. They want to kill it, right, Winston? They want to knock the ball out of the park and kill it. Just go out and buy a good, solid deal. Solid. B. It's going to get you return, going to make you some money, and just do that. Get the deal.
I was part of Rich Dad Education for about 8 years.
Okay.
So my contract with them was a 3-year contract, and I made their Hall of Fame in 3 years. So if you're a Hall of Fame recipient with them, then you can come forever to any of their classes that they do for free.
Okay.
So I continued to go to the classes for another 4 years. And I went to the classes, and I would sit there in the afternoons and the evenings, and I would talk to people about how they could do it, because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. I just can't do it. I can't make the numbers work. This doesn't do this. But the biggest problem I had was the amount of people that would go there, and they were nice hotels. So you're paying $400 a night at a hotel to attend a class.
Right.
You're paying for your food. You're paying for your travel, because it was never where you lived. You know, you're paying for all this other crazy stuff. And the same people, year after, not month after month, I mean every single month they're there, year after year after year, saying, I just need to learn a little bit more. I just need to learn a little bit. No, you need to drop that freaking hammer is what you need to do and get on with it. But they never would, and they would finish up their 3-year contract and never bought a property, never done anything, and say they're still trying to get education.
And they wasted
all
that money.
You spend so much money going and spending on hotels, you could have got your down payment just right there.
Yeah, absolutely. If I didn't, and I would tell you, someone I'm seeing now would be the first one to do it. I bought some bad properties. I've done some bad deals. But I'd rather make 10 purchases and have one of them be a crappy deal that I need to unload. And I can always fix that later. I can always do a 1031, roll out of that deal, whatever I need to do. But just go out and buy solid deals. Because you hit a home run every single time? I don't either. No. Nobody does. We know Ken McElroy and others. Nobody kills it on every single deal. But if you have enough deals that you do, you're going to get ahead, and now you're harnessing all those economic forces. You got to get into the game. So if I would say the one thing, 2 words: take action. Make something happen. Get it done. Get after it and do it. And then all of a sudden, you're going to learn so much more by having that deal that you're not going to learn that on a spreadsheet or by reading a book. But when you have an actual deal, because guess what? If something's going wrong, I'm going to call a guy like Winston and go, I bought this. What's going wrong? And you'll be like, oh, you need to fix this, this, and that. So investors like to help other investors out. But they want
really
to do it when you got something moving. You can't do it unless you're in the game with some momentum. And then they can kind of take that momentum. It's like this boat we're on right now. This boat's cruising along. It's really easy to move the boat a little bit, a few degrees. Mm-hmm. But it's really hard to take this boat, right, and create the momentum and get it going. The propellers crank, it's sitting still, and you got to, and then it finally gets on a plane now, and now we're cruising along because we got momentum. It's the exact same thing with real estate. You got to have some momentum.
I agree. Well, we're going to stop this now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some cost segregations and 1031s for a few minutes, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
So we're back, and we're going to talk to Scott about a 1031 exchange and what that is. And before we go there, his future soon-to-be wife has a question for the group. And we were just doing something else, talking about some land development stuff. So what was your question, Nicole?
So my question is on your architectural and engineering. What do those costs look like? Do you use the same floor plan so you're not incurring that expense over and over again? What does that look like for you? What's
okay,
that
so she's asking about engineering. Are we using the same floor plan? Are we using the same architectural drawings? What are we doing? So when I'm doing a land development deal, so the first thing we'll do is we'll start off with a civil engineer. Okay, so we're going to hire a civil engineer. He's going to come in and he's going to do the topography in the area. He's going to find out what the dirt looks like. I hire an engineer that does everything turnkey. So he will meet with the city. He will get it rezoned. He will get it platted. He will get everything done. And the cost is usually probably, so I got a 10-unit development that we're doing right now, and I think I have about $20,000 in engineering fees with him.
Okay.
And that's for 10 units. It'll be about $20,000. So on a typical unit, I just had him do something for me for one duplex, and I think he charged me about $3,000. I mean, that wasn't much more than just a survey, but he did that. So that's the civil engineer. So then from there, most of what I build, I don't use an architectural engineer. What I will do is I will grab a set of blueprints. I do build the same footprint often. You know, I got a great footprint that's a very inexpensive build. It's using, you know, basically just stock lumber where I ain't got a lot of waste in it. You know, if I buy a 16-foot board, I'm using all 16 feet of it. I may lose a couple inches, but that's all I'm losing. And we pay attention to stuff like that. But like the townhomes I'm building, I had a architect come in and draw the townhomes because I wanted a very specific townhome and it needed to fit. I had topography issues where I'm building. I wanted a certain size. I wanted it to look a certain way. I changed it and I was going to go with 2-bedroom, 2.5 baths, and I wanted 2 master suites on it so that I could rent it to 2 adults that may not be together, that are living separately, but they can split the rent because rents keep going up and more people need to get roommates. So I wanted, if they're going to get roommates, then I wanted to be able to bring a roommate in. Both the people in the home have the same quality of bedroom, bathroom, walk-in closets. And so it's a little bit bigger than I would like to build a 2-bedroom home, but I think the way it's going to rent, I think it'll be better. So I'm very, very confident. I think my price on that was about $15,000. So what he will do is he draws it all out. Actually, so my price on that was $7,500, and he was charging me $15,000, but I backed him off on not doing the sprinkler systems, and I told him I didn't want him to lay down the sprinkler systems, the mechanical or the electrical for me. And the reason I didn't want that because my planning and zoning department doesn't require that. When I get ready to do the sprinkler system, the sprinkler company that I'm going to use, I will have the sprinkler company come out and lay it out the way he wants to lay it out. And then I will give that to the city to approve. They will approve it at that time. And as far as electrical and mechanical drawings go, our city doesn't require that. So I use the same electrician every time, and he lays my houses out anyway. And even if the architect gave me something, I would probably still have him lay them out because he knows how I like them. And then the air conditioning is the same thing. A lot of times I will do air conditioning different than what they want to lay it out because I don't want anything in my attic. I want to air handle it downstairs. A lot of them will put it in the attic, and then you have water issues whenever your drain stops up, and I just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff.
So those costs are rolled into
yes.
the work that they're actually doing.
Yeah. So he didn't have to do the drawing on the other one, and he don't do the mechanical drawings or the sprinkler drawings. He subs that out to somebody else, so he's got to pay another engineer to do that. Okay. That's why it was $15,000. But if you know your area that you're building in, what do they really require, and get what they need, and don't go do a bunch of stuff that they don't need because your tradesman can probably lay that stuff out for you.
Okay. And so if you use the same template, you're not incurring those costs on future projects?
Nothing. I don't. Okay. The plans I got are mine. I own them. Okay. And I can build them as many times as I want to build them. Investors that are first-time investors, maybe they got 3, 4, 5 units, still working a W-2 job. Can they do a cost segregation? And what is a cost segregation?
Yeah, let's talk about what cost segregation is. It's a fancy term. All the cost segregation means is you're going to look at a piece of real estate, which on a residential property you depreciate it over 27.5 years. So every year you get a little depreciation. In a cost segregation study, you look at that property, but you begin to reclassify parts of that real estate as personal property and shorter depreciable lives, which basically, and it sounds like technical mumbo jumbo, it just means you get more tax benefits now rather than spread over time. So something like a ceiling fan is not going to last 27 years. So that has a shorter life because it's going to wear out. Other parts of the property are going to wear out. So things like a wooden fence, you're probably going to have to replace it somewhere along the way. So there's a whole list of those components. In a cost segregation study, you go in, and it used to be really complex. You used to go in, to have somebody fly out on site, look at your specific property, and it would cost a lot of money. So it was done on commercial properties. That's called an engineering-based study. What I do, and what a lot of investors do that buy smaller properties, is they do a software-based study. So there's now software where you can plug in the square footage of the property, what type of, what do you have on the side? Is it brick? Is it, whatever it is, all the different components. And that software will then break out, based upon the information you put in the software, it will then break out a study that'll show you on your specific property how much of it you can get more depreciation on up front today. So that's what a cost segregation study does. Now, why do you do it? Because you can get a tax benefit. If I can take more depreciation today based upon the time value of money, I'm going to get a better benefit than stretching that out over 27.5 years. We know with inflation, that benefit in 27 years is going to be worth what it is right now today. So that's what a study is and what it does. it gets a little more complex. There's certain people that benefit a little bit more. People that are considered a real estate professional can get some other benefits, but a lot of people can benefit from doing this because when we analyze our property, right, what are we looking at? We're looking at cash flow. We're looking at the rents that it kicks off, but we're also going to look at our after-tax return. So if I get more depreciation right now, today, that's going to boost my return on investment. Gets complex because the way the tax law is today, this benefit of a cost segregation study, there's something called bonus depreciation, which just means you get to take a little more depreciation now. A few years ago, you could take what was called 100% bonus depreciation. Last year, it was 80%. This year, it's 60%. And then it's going to go down to 40 and then 20, and then it may drop off under current law. But there's some good news. They're redoing the tax code next year, and they're going to look at all the different tax cuts that were going on and say, what are the things that help small businesses? What are the things that help real estate? Hopefully, we're going to get something like 100% bonus depreciation back in the code. A lot of people think there's a pretty good chance we'll get that.
Cool. What so any investor can use depreciation, or do you have to be a real estate professional?
A real estate professional gets the benefit of using this loss against ordinary income. So there are different buckets of income that are out there. So only somebody that's considered a real estate professional can use a loss here on an investment property and use it to offset ordinary or earned income. But you still get a loss. That's a benefit to everybody. So if I get a tax, when we talk about a tax loss, it doesn't mean you're losing money. It's just on paper with depreciation. So that's the beauty of it. Sometimes people will call that, a phantom benefit, right? It's really on paper because I'm still getting cash flow on my investment.
But that cash flow you're not paying taxes on because you can't use it on your ordinary income, but you can use it against that cash flow of that property.
Correct.
So that's tax-free, basically.
Yeah, or you can use it later on. If you sell a property and you don't do a 1031 exchange, which I think everybody should be doing 1031s, but if you don't, I still have that loss that I've generated that can offset the capital gain on the property down the road. So there are a lot of different ways to kind of use that. I think it's always good to try and get that tax loss, harvest it now, and you can use it right now or you carry it forward into future years.
So when he said 27 and a half years, so you're just taking the total amount of the home you buy, deduct the price of the land out of it because you can't depreciate land, and then you take whatever's left over, you divide that by 27.5, and you get to write that number off against your top, if you're a real estate professional, against your top tier income. So if you're in a 35% bracket, and you got a $9,000 number, you can take the first $9,000 off of the top of your bracket, and it drops it down, and you don't pay any tax on that. So if you're in a 30% tax bracket, you're saving almost $3,000 in taxes that you will pay. So it is a great benefit. I mean, it's a great benefit to be able to use. If you're a real estate professional, you can do it against your ordinary income at any time.
Right, exactly. And just to clarify, it's 27 and a half years on a single family home. If you're dealing with any commercial property, you now got a 39 years. So to me, that's a benefit of having single family or residential real estate, is getting that shorter depreciation.
Yep. So the 1031, so we do the cost segregation, okay, to try and save some money. Now, I have an issue. So let's explain the 1031, then we're going to talk about my issue.
Okay.
So do we need to hit more on cost segregation, or
no? We're good on that.
So the cost segregation, if you go in and you do regular depreciation, that's over the 27 and a half years on residential, 39 on commercial. If you do a cost seg, then what it's going to do is it's going to break it down component by component by component. So your air conditioner is worth X amount of years. Your plumbing is worth X amount of years. Your lighting is worth X amount of years. And they allow you to depreciate a lot of it off a lot faster. So you can use that money a lot quicker, as to not doing a cost segregation. So a cost segregation allows you to do it all at once.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on that, cost segregation doesn't change your depreciation benefit. It just pulls it forward to where you can use it now. So you're not getting more depreciation, you're just getting the benefit of it sooner. Yeah, just to clarify that.
So that's that's the depreciation and cost segregation. Now we're going to talk about what a 1031 exchange is.
A 1031 exchange been in the tax code since 1921. Been around a long time. In the most simplistic terms, if you look at what a 1031 is, I take any property that I hold for investment or I use in my business, and I exchange it for another like kind property that I hold for investment or use in my business. To give you a simple, contrast that with a sale. If I do a sale, I take a property, I sell it, and I get cash. That's a taxable sale. 1031 exchange, I have a property held for investment, I give it up, and I receive back another property that I hold for investment. The benefit is the tax code gives a preferential tax break to real estate. I can do this with real estate where I can defer paying my capital gain taxes, and I could do it right now, and then I could do it in 5 years when I sell the asset, and then I can exchange it again. So we have this provision in the code that allows a real estate investor to defer paying those capital gain taxes over and over and over and over again. And at the end of their lifetime, they've now built up a larger portfolio. When they pass away, their heirs get it with what's called a full step up in basis, meaning you're not paying capital gain taxes throughout your entire lifetime. Your heirs are not going to pay capital gain taxes either. It is
so the tax is forgiven. Is that correct? At that point, the government forgives that tax.
The tax you don't have it because the basis, what your cost basis is, the cost basis of the value. So basically it washes out. Your basis is exactly the value you inherit the property at. So it's the best deal for real estate investors.
So many people don't use it, but they give the government 25% of what they're making off of the property when they sell it.
25% or more, yeah. Right? You've got 4 different taxes you'll pay if you don't do an exchange. Your depreciation's taxed at 25%. Remaining gain is either 15 or 20%. You got state taxes, so you don't have that in Tennessee, but if you're in California, 14.4% is the maximum state tax rate. It was this pesky little tax that came about to pay for healthcare reform. Tax. Yeah, Obamacare. It's an additional 3.8% you pay on any income over $200,000 if you're single, and over $250,000 if you're married. So you got all 4 levels of taxes. So people out, let's say in a state like California or New York or high state tax areas, they're paying 40 to 50% of their profit in taxes if they don't do an exchange. It's crazy. If you want to build a real estate portfolio, the way to do it is to do this thing called a 1031 exchange, redeploy, because you get to keep all of your equity, that gross equity pre-tax. You get to reinvest it into another property, or what savvy investors do is they'll take 1 property and they'll go into 2, and then you go from 2 into 4 and 4 into 8, and then you'll scale up. And so you don't have to just sell 1 property in one. You take that, and now that you've got that larger equity, you leverage it up, and now you scale your portfolio using the 1031 exchange. It's the tool. It's the way that people that get into commercial real estate, they started with a little piece of land. They wanted a little single family home, and they got 2 of those, and a duplex, and maybe a small 8-plex. And before you know it, they're now big players with commercial real estate. And it all started with that first little piece of dirt they got, that they just rolled it over in a 1031, and they kept doing it.
Wow. So one thing he said the other day was that if you had something that you was going to 1031, let's say it would turn into $1 million piece of property when you were selling it was $1 million, that you could break that up into 4, you could break it up into numerous things, like 4 different pieces of property, recognize 4 different pieces of property and put the 20% down on it, maybe $250,000 down on each one of them, and then run with that, and now you got 5 properties or 4 properties making you appreciation, depreciation, cash flow. Yeah. Instead of just 1. All your eggs aren't in that 1 basket of 1 property.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the things I did, I had a piece of dirt, I had a 2.5 acre lot. I bought it for $90,000. I exchanged out of it $265,000. So that lot was costing me money. In fact, that was right before the downturn. I had to pay property taxes on that. Cost me money. It was negative cash flow. I went from that 1 lot into 5 single family homes. So 3 in Tennessee, 2 out in Kansas. I got brand new single family homes, and now I was able to take depreciation. I got positive cash flow, and I diversified. Instead of having a lot near where I lived, I went into 2 good markets, right? So now all of a sudden I got more units, more going. Just those 5 are worth $1.4 million out of a $90,000 investment.
Ain't that cool?
Right? That's what people do with exchanges over and over. So people that sell and pay taxes, they're moving ahead a little bit. People that exchange, these are the people that 10, 20 years down the road have a massive portfolio, and everybody's like, how did you get all those assets? Well, because I didn't pay my taxes when I sold. I just reinvested the money into more property. A lot of times you'll add a little bit of leverage, right? So you add the bank's financing to scale it up a little bit, and you can massively grow a real estate portfolio by doing the 1031 exchange.
So if you was going to do a 1031, you could even roll it into it, buy the whole property with it, and then afterwards you could pull the money back out in a loan, and now you got all that money back in your pocket, but you own an asset. Keep it where it cash flows. You basically pull the rest of the money out and go do another deal with it. Go make more money with it. Produce more houses. So another thing he was talking about was, so I got this piece of property I was talking about a minute ago, where I got a piece of property where I can put 10 townhomes on. But I already own it. I own it in one of my LLCs, so I already own that property.
Right.
And I got some property I can sell, but if I sell the property, I'm gonna pay 30% tax on it or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want to sell that property, lose 30% of the value of that property, and go put it over here.
Right.
And you made a comment that there's ways that I could do that and possibly be able to 1031 exchange that into my new construction project that I already have.
Yeah. So when you look at exchanges, 97% of all exchanges are something called a delayed exchange. Sell a property. When I close on it, I have 45 days to identify a new property, and then a maximum of 180 days to actually close on what I identified. We call that a delayed or deferred exchange. But we've got these more creative variations. They're called parking arrangements. We got guidance from the government on this back in year 2000. So a revenue procedure came out that provided guidance you can do things called a reverse exchange, buy something the new property before you sell it. What you're talking about is what we call a leasehold improvement exchange. So the IRS says you cannot exchange into property that Winston owns. Can't do it. That's just the tax law. But due to some creative people doing some planning, you can create a new interest on your property, your dirt, create a new leasehold interest that's 30 years or greater, sell a property over here, take that money, and then we make improvements on your leasehold interest. And then within 180 days, so we still have that same time parameter, we transfer the leasehold with the improvements that we put on it back to you to complete your exchange. So your piece of dirt, we can do what's called a leasehold improvement exchange that meets those requirements, completely valid under the code. And it's a creative way for you to build on dirt that you already want to build on anyway, that the tax code said previously, well, you can't build on your own dirt, but we're going to create this new leasehold interest on your dirt, put the improvements there, and get it done.
So does that change the way I do my bookkeeping? Does it change the way I manage the property? Does it change anything like that?
Nothing like that at all.
But I got to pay a certain amount of money for the lease every year? Or
you do for a period of time. So you have to do the leasehold. Normally you keep it in place for a couple of years, and then it kind of gets extinguished down the road. And we've got guidance for that. So
in 5 years from now, if I wanted to sell it, I can still sell the property?
Sell the property with all the improvements on it. It's just one sale to somebody. So the cool thing about the tax code is, that came out of some commercial investors wanting to do something a little bit creative. And they went to the IRS and approached them and said, hey, we'd like to accomplish this. Can we do it? And the IRS said, yeah, you can do that. That'll qualify. And then another investor did it. So we got some tax guidance. So one of the cool things about the tax code is the tax code evolves over time, but it provides all these tools and mechanisms for real estate investors, particularly, right? It opens up some planning opportunities. The tax code encourages investment into real estate, right? The government wants you to buy real estate and to develop good quality housing and to provide quality housing to people in Tennessee. So there's certain activities that just on the big picture, the tax codes encourage. Reinvesting into real estate. I just got back from DC a couple weeks ago, meeting with people and explaining to them the economic benefits. With the 1031 exchange, it contributes annually $97 billion to the economy, just by annual basis of doing exchange. and something like 980,000 jobs are created just from 1031 exchanges. Well, the government wants to encourage more of that, right? That creates jobs, redevelops things, improves housing. A lot of the stuff that you see going on in a lot of cities where people are doing redevelopment, those are exchanges happening where people come in and they'll buy a saggy area, they'll redevelop it with a good anchor tenant, and all of a sudden you got a neighborhood that was on the downhill slide being completely turned around because somebody did an exchange in, put a good anchor tenant in, started developing some pad sites around there, and now you got a hub. What was kind of dumpy and undesirable becomes the exact opposite. And what does that do? It improves the value of the community. Mm-hmm. More people want to move there. More people want to live there. So at the basic level, exchanges are a tool, but on the more macro picture, it helps with redevelopment and really turning around neighborhoods and improving communities.
And I'm seeing the same thing happening now on opportunity zones and stuff like that, because I've bought in opportunity zones where we come in and we tear down a piece of crap, man, and put it in a beautiful apartment complex or something like that, and it improves the whole entire area.
So can you explain? Why don't you explain to people that are watching? What is an opportunity? I mean, I know what an opportunity is, but what is it fundamentally? What does it allow you to do?
So I don't know the salary. I know I think it was like $35,000 needed to be the median income. It's in the $30,000 range. It may change year to year. I'm not sure. But when I bought that opportunity zone, what the government did, they came in and they said, we need to entice people to invest in this particular area. So it's not an area that's trashy. It's just an area where the people don't make a lot of money. The people can't afford a lot of stuff, and everybody overlooks that area because the investors don't come in because there's not enough money there. So what the government says is, if you sell this, and I sold a company, and they said I could invest into an opportunity zone with the money that I had, and I would have to pay my taxes with a 15% discount after 7 years. So then 7 years from then, I got to pay the taxes, and then if I hold that property for 10 years, I don't pay any capital gains on when I sell it.
Right. So that was the incentive with the opportunity zone, is that you go and invest there. So the government created this cool tax incentive to bring capital in, and if you hold on to it after 10 years, any gain beyond that is completely tax-free.
And that'll be about a $9 million project by that time. By the time we hit that thing, it'll be worth about $9 million. So we're talking $9 million that you don't pay a penny of taxes on when you sell it.
Right. And
what incentive do I have to sell that right now? None.
Zero.
I'm stupid if I do.
So think about it. You made a great investment, but think about the community. You took a community that people were overlooking, that really wasn't getting capital. You infused capital in. You created a better building, right? So you added value to that community, which when other people are doing that, now you have this whole segment that was a little underserved that's get the benefit of all the capital. And what's going to happen? It's going to become more desirable. It's going to add a lot of economic benefits. So nationally, I can tell you that opportunity zone legislation has helped revitalize lots and lots of communities around the country. So it's been a powerful economic incentive for an investor like you to come in and do it, get a tax benefit, but then it helps the whole community. So that's what I love about the tax code. Tax code helps transform communities, create jobs, and it does a lot of positive things.
So that apartment complex was an extremely rough apartment complex. It was the absolute worst property in the whole entire city. It was horrible.
Okay.
When I did what I did to it, they were able to, they lost cops, they didn't replace 4 of the cops they had in the city. And they didn't do that because of the area I had. They had people at that 50-unit apartment complex 2 and 3, 4 times a day. They had cops there working. It was that bad. Then I bought the neighborhood behind it, which cleaned up everything within about a 5-mile radius of that when I did that, because those were 2 bad properties in the whole entire area. So I bought the neighborhood behind it, and I did the same exact thing on the neighborhood behind it.
In a 5-mile radius now?
Yeah, everything else is just a city, and it's an old city. It is a beautiful city. Got tons of character to it. Got a lot of history with it.
That's so cool.
But it is a really, really thing. And the people were mad when we evicted the people in the apartment complex. They were mad. I mean, wanted to kill you mad. But I can tell you, a year later, afterwards, we had people coming up to us and thanking us for evicting them out of the apartment complex. They said, we had no idea how bad our living conditions really were. Right. The rents were so cheap. And the reason everybody got evicted is because it was such a crap hole of a piece of property. I needed to do millions of dollars worth of repairs to it, and I couldn't do it with people living there. And I just could not let them stay in a property like that. It was just for me, ethically, I could not allow myself to rent a piece of property like that to people, because I think it destroys people. But, you know, so we changed the whole dynamics of the city. Right. And that is a really, really cool thing.
See, and people look at real estate development and they look at kind of, you know, how people are developing, look at all the money they made. They're forgetting that whole other social benefit that goes on that is a big aspect of it. You transformed a community there that's spread out, right? Think about the multiplier impact of that. People that have little coffee shops and all this stuff around, just because you have all that crime going on, you can change entire communities. That's what development does. That's what the tax code incentivizes. Cool job.
And we got 99 doors right there. So that's 99 different families that we're helping, because we're helping these people with housing. They wouldn't have housing if it wasn't for us to give them a house. They can't go buy one.
Right.
They'd have to go live somewhere else. And we got good quality housing. And I can tell you, man, we'll buy these areas up, and you can go talk to the people 6 months after we're there, and they'll say, we've never had landlords that come in there and do the kind of work these people do. And, you know, you call them this afternoon about a work order, they're there to fix it this afternoon. They don't tell me wait 3 days to come over there and fix it. We go fix it.
Yeah.
And it's for me, that's a pride thing. I pride myself on providing extremely good housing.
That's awesome.
So any other, so do you have your company, or do you know of anybody that does just really in-depth classes? So you and I are talking about this, and I can comprehend. But I've listened to you talk from a stage, and I didn't comprehend everything you were saying, because you're going fast. You got your script you're going through and talking about it in your slides, and I don't get it like that. I get it better on this little small one-to-one conversation. How do people that learn like I learn, how are they able to go out there and get the education to learn it? And sometimes, you know, for me, some classes I have to take 2, 3, 4 times to understand it and get it.
Yeah, you know, it's easy with technology. I've got all sorts of videos where I teach classes for an hour, 2 hours. They're all recorded. I would say because of a 1031, it's not difficult, but there are some technical aspects. There's some buzzwords. There's some terminology. There's some rules you got to understand. I think the best way to get up to speed on it is go and watch a couple of these classes that I do.
Can you give them your information?
Yeah. I'm Scott Saunders with Asset Preservation, and you can Google and find me. You can find, I've got all sorts of videos and classes that are out there on that. We've got a website, apiexchange.com, where I've got a whole bunch of recorded videos. The main thing I would do would be a couple things. One, get some information, watch some classes, and then number 2, talk to your CPA, your tax professional. And then number 3, talk to what is called a qualified intermediary. We haven't talked about that term, but in the middle of an exchange is this company, and that company is going to prepare some legal documents, and they're going to physically hold the money from the sale, because they got to hold it. You can't sell it and receive the money. They have to hold it. Call a reputable qualified intermediary. Tell them what you're looking to accomplish. You know, I'm selling a property for this value. Here's how I hold title. A good qualified intermediary, and there are dozens of them out there.
Your company does that, right?
That's what we do. Okay. Yeah, and that's what I do. We do an intake with people where we kind of go through, what are you selling? Was it held for investment? How long did you hold it? How do you have title? What's your equity, your debt? We kind of have a checklist of things we'll go through. Do that with a good qualified intermediary, and then run it by your CPA, because everybody's got a little bit of different situation. Doing that will give you the education, and then you've got the 2 main people, your CPA, your tax advisor, and a good qualified intermediary to kind of help you navigate through the process. And I just say this, if you haven't done an exchange because it sounds daunting and it sounds kind of like technical mumbo jumbo, the process is really pretty straightforward. A qualified intermediary will walk you through that day 0. They'll walk you through the identification rules. They'll walk you through the whole process, and you'll find once you do an exchange, it's really pretty simple. It looks to you just like a normal transaction with a little bit of additional paperwork. It's not going to hold up your closing. It's not going to hold up anything. It just puts a requirement on you as the investor to go out in the market and start looking for properties you want to reinvest in right away.
Yeah, that's number one, you can't close on that property, and that money can never touch your hand. So everything has to be done before that. Once that money touches your hand, you're done. So
yeah,
absolutely. And you do that all over the country, right?
So, yeah, you do.
Y'all look him up. Look him up. Show him some love. Give him some business. This man look, he can't even afford pants. Got shorts on, so we got to get him some clothes. We got to help him out. Look, he had a toupee earlier, but it looked horrible, so we took it off of him. He's not wearing that now, but we got to help out Scott. I appreciate you, brother.
That's funny.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm here at a real estate conference here, and got a few days to hang out with a whole bunch of real estate investors. But here's my good friend Winston, and Winston is probably one of the smartest real estate investors I know. Somebody that knows how to take action, build a portfolio, and build deal after deal and do it. So Winston, great to visit with you and have some time hanging together.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't agree with that. One of the smartest guys you know. I know you know a lot of smart people.
Nah.
I get a participation award. I'm happy with that.
Whatever. Anyway, he's practical and he gets stuff done. So Winston, you know, you're in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
So you're in a part of the market where everybody's going to Nashville, right? Everybody's relocating there. You work in that, if I understand, you work in that whole Tennessee market, right?
Yeah, so my investments are about 15 miles north of Nashville.
Okay.
I got about a third of my portfolio.
All right.
Then I have a third of my portfolio about 45, 50 miles kind of east of Nashville.
Okay.
And then I have another third of my portfolio about maybe 90 miles past Nashville.
Okay.
So I'm in 3 different areas, all in Tennessee. So one of them's outside of Chattanooga.
Okay.
And the other one is in between Chattanooga and Nashville, and then the one is right where I live.
Okay. Cool. That gives a good idea.
A little bit of diversification, but they're all bedroom communities. So I'm not investing in a metropolitan area because I don't like dealing with the higher taxes, and I don't like dealing with the garbage that comes with the big cities and stuff. I want it simple. I want it to always just be fluid and flow.
Uh-huh.
I don't want a bunch of hiccups in it. I want to find tenants that are going to stay for 3 years or so. Hopefully, whenever we put them in there's going to be a tenant that's going to stay a little while, and prevent a little bit of a turnover.
Okay.
And we're just looking for the right people, and I find that is better in the bedroom communities, and I don't have to charge $4,000 a month rent. So the people in Nashville, if I bought a condo in Nashville and rent it out, you got to spend at least $4,000 a month to rent it out.
Wow.
Or you go into kind of a little bit, maybe a C- area, and you pick up something there, and then you just deal with a lot of riffraff and stuff. And I did that at first, but then I got to a point in life I said I just don't want to deal with that anymore. I want tenants they pay their bills.
So what type of asset's your ideal asset?
So,
what type of class? What do you look for?
So like you, most of my stuff is single family.
Okay.
Okay. So we talked about I own a couple of neighborhoods. So I own every house in a neighborhood in 2 different areas. But it's still single family housing. It's 1,300 square foot house with 1-car garage or a 2-car garage on it. Those neighborhoods, one of the neighborhoods would be a B- area.
Okay.
And probably the homes themselves would probably be a B- also. And the reason I say B- is because that particular area, I bought that neighborhood a little bit over 12 months ago, tons and tons and tons of deferred maintenance in it. And I have been pumping money into it. And I'm expecting probably at least another 3 months before I finish everything I needed to be done. But once I finish it and have everything stabilized exactly like it needs to be, then the next term with rents, I'm going to bring the rents up another $200 to $300 a month, and I'm probably going to lose a third of the tenants again.
Okay.
So when I lose that second third of the tenants, we lost almost every single tenant when I bought it, because I went up $500 a month when I bought the neighborhood, because the guy was renting the neighborhood at $700 a month. You can't cash flow. And I'm talking, these particular houses are all built in 2006, all brick homes, nice homes.
Okay.
And he's renting them for $700 a month. So I bumped them up to $1,250, and we had at least a third of them quit. I said, I'm going up on a rent in 90 days.
Right.
And if you don't want to do it, then let me know, and let me know you're moving out, and you got 90 days to find a place to live. It's not anything you got to get out right now, but nobody was under a contract, so we didn't have any leases.
Okay.
And so we got them out. We upped the rents, and now I don't have a single house. I got some more. We still got some we're rehabbing, but I don't have a single house in that neighborhood available for rent right now that I can't fill. I don't have anything.
Okay.
And so my thought is, once I get all of them done, then whenever it starts coming out, now I need to get the rents in that neighborhood should be close to $2,000 is where they ought to be.
And what are you at right now?
I'm at $1,250.
So you're way under the market.
Yeah.
So let me ask then, are you comfortable in terms of your portfolio bumping somebody out to jack up the rent and get it close to fair market. Is that typically the way you approach it?
Well, so I bought an apartment complex one time.
Okay.
And I had to evict everybody in the apartment complex on day one. I filed eviction on everyone in the apartment complex on day one. Nobody, not one person had a thing. But it was such a piece of crap property that I wasn't willing to put my name on it, that I owned it for people to live in.
Okay.
And I put about 2.5 million into a rehab on that apartment complex.
Okay.
And then we brought it back on the market and rented it out.
Okay.
So I did that. And then another neighborhood I bought, that was the same as this neighborhood we were just talking about. They were just so far under rents.
Okay.
And I had to raise the rent because you pay the money for it and they don't cash flow. I can't do that. I'd rather. Right. And we put it in I put it in my numbers when I run my numbers. I said I'm gonna lose a third of the people at least. And that's what I told my wife when we bought that neighborhood. I said we're gonna lose a third at least. And she said we can't afford that. I said, but if we go up on it, they're charging $700 a month and we lose 1/3 of the people. I said, we're still making more money than we're making if we leave the rents where they are.
Right. With just 2/3 paying.
Yeah, with 2/3
per rent bump. Yeah.
So and we lost about a third.
Okay.
And then we rehabbed all those and brought them up to nicer houses.
And then rent it
throughout
higher.
the year, people were drifting off, and it went about the rate. We would finish rehabbing a house and one of them would become vacant. We'd finish rehabbing and one of them would become vacant, and it was a steady thing. So it's been that neighborhood. We bought it. We've had it probably bought it in July 2 years ago. So we've had it a little bit over almost 2 years.
Okay.
A couple more months, it'll be 2 years. But it's 100% occupied, and I would say it's an A-class area. It is a beautiful area. Sits in a between a big bunch of mountains, and it's just got a beautiful view. It's just a beautiful property. And those homes on that particular neighborhood is 2011 they were built. So it's the same homes as the other neighborhood, but they were built in 2011. And it's a good asset. So I got a little bit of HUD money tied to that right there.
Okay.
And I got 3 more years with a HUD contract that I can't jack the rents up anymore. They let me jack them up $167 this year. So we did bring them up $167 this year. And that, what is that? What does $167 mean to you on value?
On me as an investor?
Well, yeah. What would it mean to you as an investor? Now, I would never sell the neighborhood as a neighborhood. I would break it up and sell it as individual houses because
right.
It's worth more money. But if you was going to sell it as a neighborhood,
everything's about cash flow, right? So $167. If it penciled out and when I bought it, another $167 just makes the deal that much sweeter for me. So it means everything.
So I have no calculator with me. But if you took the 167 and you multiplied it by 12,
yep.
And that neighborhood has 41 houses in it, and you multiply that times 41, then you find out this is the NOI. I mean, our right. expenses are already factored in before we even get there, so
right.
our expenses aren't going up anymore.
Right.
So now you take that number and divide. Say you bought it at a 6 cap, you would divide whatever that number is by 0.06, and that's how much more that neighborhood is worth than what it was. Right. Just because they let us go up $167.
Right. Your value went through the roof.
It's millions. It goes up millions whenever you do that.
Because you got scale with that.
Yeah.
With that many units.
Yeah.
It really functions just like an apartment complex. It's single family homes that pencils out like an apartment complex.
The numbers are figured the same.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm still running a huge cost on those. So on an apartment complex, when I rehabbed my apartment complex, my bank looked at it and they said, it's going to be a pretty inexpensive apartment complex to manage. But they said, we're still not going to come under 30% on expenses. So they still figured in 30%. So even on a new construction project, we always put at least 30% expenses in there if we run our numbers. That way we got a good solid number and it's not working.
Cool.
We are all over the board again, huh?
Yeah, we are. So Winston, someone like you's got all these different units and experience with different types of things, single family and multifamily and whole neighborhoods. When you look at somebody that is maybe an intermediate level investor, they've got a few assets. Let's say they own 5, 6, 7, 8 homes. Their goal was to maybe get to 20 or 30 assets, right? That's a number I think a lot of people can have a pretty good quality of life. If you got 20, 30 assets, it'll cover a lot of expenses. It'll get a lot of things working for you. How do you What do you think are the keys to go from 6, 7, 8 to tripling that, to 20, 30 or more?
If you're counting those assets, are you counting per door? Let's say you had a duplex or a quad. Is that
I call an asset an asset. I don't look at them as much by door. I know a lot of people count it that way, because my duplex, right? I'm going to get a duplex that's probably going to be a lot of times it's going to be maybe a C plus, where my single family is going to be a B. So I just consider that an asset.
So I'm looking at things right now, and I think with the market prices where they are, you go to many auctions trying to buy something at auction at a core step auction.
No,
oh my goodness, they're retail. They're paying retail or more than retail because you're getting this bidding war, and everybody's got this hype about they got to win, so they're trying to outbid the next guy. I won't even go to one. I'm like, I ain't going to that crap. Like, you can buy it cheaper through MLS.
Right.
But as I'm looking and trying to find houses that I can buy and do a quick, maybe a little bit of a burr. We're gonna fix it up, do a cash out refi, pull some money out of it. They're just not there. They're few and far. I'm not saying they're not there, but they're just few and far between. They're so small, and your returns are horrible because the cost has went up so much.
Right.
And I look at that. Houses are more money, the materials are more money, the labor's more money, the taxes are more money. Our taxes just went up 38% in our city. I mean, and that's going on everywhere. I mean, everybody's
insurance is up.
Everything is up. Everything is up. Insurance was 38% too.
Yeah.
And so we started looking at that, and I couldn't make my numbers work.
Okay.
So I told my wife, and this was in 2017. I told her, I said, find me a piece of land, I'm gonna build a house.
Okay.
She said, we don't build houses. I said, we don't build houses yet, but we're fixing to. So she reluctantly starts looking for a lot.
Okay.
And she finds out it's the last lot in a neighborhood that was built 20 years ago. And it's $7,000. So how crappy of a piece of lot do you think that I'm going to look at?
That's not top of the line
no.
lot. Yeah,
so I go look at this lot, and you can go about 8 feet off the road, and it just drops off. Tennessee is mountainous.
Okay.
So I look at the lot and I say, I can do something with that.
Okay.
So I went and talked to the city, and I said, would y'all be willing to give me a variance on that, because I can't meet my setbacks. The topography is too bad. And the city agreed that they would do a variance on it.
Okay.
So I bought the lot.
For $7,000.
For $7,000.
Okay.
Both neighbors on each side was pissed. They were both saying, nobody can build there.
Right.
I said, no, I already got a building permit. I'm building. They said, they told us nobody could build there. I said, somebody could build it. You just got to think outside the box.
Right.
So, and this is my first house to build.
Okay.
And my wife asked me, she said, what's the goal? I said, the goal is experience. I said, that's what I want. I want experience. I said, I don't want to lose any money, but I don't really care if I make any money. So if I don't make a penny, I don't care, but I don't want to lose any money, and I want the experience to build it, and I want to see what I can do.
Okay.
So we built that house with the land included, about $115,000 or so.
Okay.
With everything included. And we built a 1,400 square foot 2-story house.
Okay.
And no garage, just 2-story house. And what we did, it dropped off so much. The front of the house, we backfilled and filled up where we were at the front, which we got about 20 feet off of the road. And the house was like 25 foot wide, and that 25 foot, it dropped down 18 blocks.
Wow.
So it dropped down about 12 feet, 13 feet.
Right.
That we had. And the house was a beautiful build. It was a fun build. I had a great time doing it.
Yeah.
And we sold that house for $225.
So almost double.
So I almost doubled that. I had $100,000 profit in it. First house I ever built.
Okay. So that's good out of the starting gates. You did good. Yeah.
And then I told her find another thing, and then she found 2 lots that we bought for $25,000 for both lots.
Okay.
And then I built 2 houses next to that, and I changed the footprint a little bit, something I could build better, and I didn't want to sell. Now I wanted to hold.
Okay.
And so I built little 1,170 square foot houses on slab, and we built them for about $90,000 a piece. And when we finished, they appraised for $225. Right now, they're appraised for almost $350.
Wow.
And I built those in 2019.
Okay.
I built them.
So that's not that far.
Finished them.
Not
that far away.
Right.
And they have been rentals ever since then.
Okay.
And
both of those.
Both of those.
All right.
And then we started getting into land development. So Rich Dad Education. I did land development classes with Rich Dad, And so we started.
Now you can teach them.
Yeah, I do teach them now.
Okay.
But with that, I like to go out and find a piece of land I can buy at a reasonable price, and I want to be able to put 4 or 5 units on it.
Okay.
So I went and bought 2 lots, or it was 3 lots total, and it had 5 units on the 3 lots, old raggedy trailers.
Okay.
So I tore all the trailers down, got rid of them. I went to the city. I subdivided it into 5 lots, and I had 4 1-acre lots in the front, and I had a 6-acre lot in the back.
Okay.
And I built 4 houses in the front, and we did about the same. It was the exact same houses as the other 2. We built them for about $90,000, $95,000. And I took the land cost, which I had $100,000 in land costs, and I split that land cost between 5 units.
Okay.
So now I got roughly $20,000 per unit in land cost. Okay, my land cost is not bad.
Right.
And then we went in and built, and they appraised a little bit better than the other ones appraised, and I stuck a tenant in it right away, and we're renting those houses now. Those houses were built in 2020 or so.
What did they rent for when you first got?
When I first started, they were renting for like $1,400 a month.
Okay.
Now they rent for $2,000. So we're renting them for $2,000 a month right now.
Okay.
And but I build with cash, but then once I build it, those houses I went in, I pulled 100% of my money back out. So I don't have a penny invested in the deals.
You get an infinite return no matter what.
But I was still making, I kept it where I was getting a minimum of $500 a month cash flow per house.
Okay.
So I was still getting $2,000 worth of cash flow.
Okay.
So then when I sat on it for a year, deciding what I wanted to do on the last 6-acre lot. And it had some topography issues. So I decided I was going to build 5 duplexes on it. And I brought my dirt guy over there, and he said, I can fix the topography. So he actually dug down. It cost him about $10,000. And he came in and dug down, and he made it 2 different tiers where it wasn't a hill, and the driveway just went down a little bit. And we built those 5 duplexes. And with the duplexes, I was into it for right at $1 million. And they appraised for like 2.2.
So more than double.
Yeah, more than double. And so we pulled the $1 million. I think I pulled like $1.4 million or $1.5 million out of there. So I put between 4 and 5. I don't remember the numbers exactly. I put between 4 and 500,000 in my pocket.
So that's what I call alchemy. So you actually were in it for $1 million. You pulled more out than you actually had into the deal. So it wasn't just an infinite return. You actually pulled.
And I took all the money and went and invested somewhere else.
So I hear you talking about this. From the first one you got, there was a challenging one. That was the learning experience. Yeah. Which you learned, but you actually made $100,000 on it. Mm-hmm. And then you progressed, right? You did 2 more, and now you're doing duplexes in different lots. If I'm trying to translate that, maybe you could explain it. You're finding adding value by doing the development, by actually being the one there that has a vision, seeing how you can maximize a piece of dirt and get the most value out of that. Is that a secret to really growing and scaling?
I think it is. I think the secret is, even in everything else, buy right, right?
Right.
We want to buy right, and when we buy right, it makes a world of difference. So we buy that land right, then we make that land. Could I build one house at $100,000 and still make money? Yeah, you can make a small amount of money. You're not going to make tremendous amounts like we're making. But if you can subdivide it and make more lots out of it, now we got a whole different story.
Right.
I bought a $50,000 lot that I got rezoned for 10 townhomes.
Right.
So now we got permits pulled for 10 townhomes that we're building on that lot.
Right. So now you're multiplying it a lot. You have the multiplier effect.
Yeah. And for those of you that are watching and say, well, I don't know how to build. You don't have to know how to build. Whereas I am a builder, I don't build my own houses. I use a subcontractor for everything. And I don't even manage all my projects. In the last 4 years, there's only been one project I've managed in the last 4 years, because I got a general contractor that does a lot of work for me, and he says, let me manage the project for 5%. He said, I won't charge you anything on what I do, but I'll manage the whole project. You just give me 5%. So we're talking, I'm going to give him $5,000 on a $100,000 bill. I don't care about that $5,000. Right. Go do the job.
Right.
And contractors are relational. So build that relationship, get to know them. They're going to have, I can tell you this guy uses subs that I can't get these subs to work for me like he can get them to work for me, and he won't work at the same price. So he beats me. I give him $5,000, but he beats my prices in anything I'm trying to get somebody else to do for me. So it's,
So you figured out how to build a team around you that can get the job done even better. So you bring them on board, give them a little incentive, and then they go ahead and they're driving the costs down to get you're into it for the littlest amount you can be in. You're going to get a value up here, and then you're going to pull the cash back out of that. And I bet you're going to take that cash and do what? Go buy another lot and do it all over again.
That's my problem. I keep myself broke because anything I make, I go reinvest it. I don't ever spend it on anything other than that. I just reinvest.
All right. Well, isn't that a secret right there? You're always reinvesting. Isn't that just a little tip there? You're always reinvest.
But you keep yourself broke all the time. That usually puts a little stress on your marriage and stuff like that. So, and not that we're broke. I mean, we're not even remotely broke. We just spend. I just spend everything because I'm not able to put a bunch of money in my checking account and go buy something stupid.
Right.
And I don't trust me enough not to do that.
Right.
So I'm just protecting myself from myself.
Yeah, you might be, but for someone that's trying to scale a portfolio, I think one of the lessons you have right there is you always take your profit, you redeploy it, and you just go back and you do it over again. So hearing your story of starting with one, going to 2 houses, and now you're doing 5 units, you're taking it and you're scaling it yourself by reinvesting back in the business.
Everything we're doing is 5 and 10 units now. We're really not doing a whole lot of 1 unit things. I told you this, that I bought another 5-acre tract for $50,000.
Right.
That was a little problematic lot. The lot is a good lot, but I got some issues with my city right now, so they're not doing a bunch of favors for me. So for me to build 1 unit on that lot, I couldn't go less than 5 acres. He didn't want to sell but 1 acre.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, you got to get it rezoned. I can't get it rezoned. I said, I'm going to struggle with that until November.
So you had him as a seller get it rezoned before he sold it?
Nope. He said he didn't want to do that.
Okay.
So then they told me I got to have 5 acres minimum to build a house. With 3 acres, I got to go in front of the BZA and there's a building and zoning appeals. I got to go in front of them and I got to get them to approve it. I said, I don't want that. I want a straight up deal. So we went with 5 acres. He did not want to go to 5 acres.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, look, I'm building duplexes. I said, I want to be at $12,500 a door on my builds. I said, so my intention on this 5 acres is I'm gonna put 2 units on it, and that's gonna cover my $50,000 I'm paying you for the units. I said, but I really think that I can put 10 units on it, or 20 total doors on a unit on the land.
Okay.
I said, I will buy it from you for 50. That's what you wanted for the part anyway. I said, and if I can after I put the 2 units on it, anything after that, even though we've closed this deal and everything, I will still give you $12,500 for every other door I put on that property. I said, if I can put 20 on it, then you're going to get, 16 more times $12,500.
Okay.
And I think that's fair. I'm not trying to, and I would suggest anybody out there, be fair with whomever you're dealing with. Don't try and rip people off, and don't ever leave. He's got a lot more land than that right there, and I don't want to leave a bad taste in his mouth. I want him to know, hey,
you want a good relationship.
This is what he said. This is what he's going to do.
You want to come back to him later on if there's another purchase. You want to know, hey, Winston was a stand-up guy. Yeah. Did it fair. Gotcha.
And that's the end goal. And I just think business ought to be done that way anyway. We ought to.
Absolutely.
I want to look at myself in the mirror when I shave and not want to cut my own throat because I feel like I'm a piece of crap that rips people off. I don't want to do that. I want to be fair and balanced and
and you know what?
Treat people like I want to be treated.
Your reputation. You're in the market of Tennessee. People know you. Your reputation. That's all you got.
That's
right?
all.
That's how people know you.
And once you ruin it, you ruin it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Hey, any final thoughts on for investors that are partway through, trying to get up where they get some more momentum? Any other tips, suggestions?
I think you got to knock on a lot of doors. You got to look at a lot of properties. You drive around and look at high grass that maybe the meter's not in the meter base on the house. Find out who owns it. It's so easy to find out who owns a piece of property nowadays. Look on Facebook and see if you can find them. If you can, just reach out to them on Facebook. Find their phone number, call them up, and just say, I just wonder if you'd be interested in selling it. And you would be shocked how many times I buy land like that. Build a good relationship with your planning and zoning department, with the city manager in your city. Build a good relationship with these people, and they will come across properties that they have that they just need somebody to buy, and they'll sell them to you. I've also bought properties from my city that they've been sitting on for 20 years because they had a thought 20 years ago what they were going to do with it, and they never did it. So I'm seeing the city's got all this land out, so I'm buying the land. Will you sell it? Yeah. Make us an offer. Tell us what you should give us for us. So don't give up. Look at, if you read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, you'll see he looked at just about 100 houses before he bought a house.
Right.
You may have to do it 100 times. It's just time, and it's practice, and you get better and better and better the more people you talk to about that kind of stuff, and people will know how sincere you are, and it's amazing how many people will actually work with you.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, so Winston, kind of wrapping things up, we're on this ship. Somebody came up to you, a stranger, and they said, "Hey, are you Winston?" Right? They've been following you. They've been following you.
That was the cruise director.
I heard that. So to find people, right? So how do people find you? So you've got, stuff on TikTok and Instagram. If people want to follow you, learn more about your hands-on approach, where do they find you? How do they follow you?
So you can find me through Real Estate Templet, Templet. So that's my last name. So we came up. Jason Hartman actually came up with that name.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Real Estate Templet, and we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, and he's on a couple other places. And we just go out and show what we do for a living and have fun. I'm a little bit out of the box in my character than most people are. I like to have fun. I'm like, if I can't have fun, I don't want to do it.
I love watching your stuff. It's you keep it real. I was watching the one with the door. You brought your the guy into it, and you're like, "What's wrong with the doors here?" I showed that one to Nicole, and I'm like, "All right, this is classic." So, if you want to watch a hands-on approach and see somebody who's in the trenches doing deals from dirt to building to construction to management, A to Z, you got to follow Winston. He's got just the best stuff out there because he keeps it real and he brings practical common sense. So love hanging out with you. Thanks so much, Winston.
No, I appreciate that.
All right.
Appreciate your time.